1 week left in the NHL regular season. One huge game coming up in the battle for top spot, the President's Trophy and coveted home ice advantage in the playoffs. Jets analyst Kevin Sawyer is going to be in the building tonight and now joins us from Dallas, where they're getting set to face the Jets. Kevin, in the past, we've seen the Jets struggle at times in their big games, but not this year. What's been the difference this season?
Yeah, you know what? I would agree with that. And you know what? This year, the way that this team has gone about rising to the occasion for big games, and all games are big, but big moment games. So last year, the first round did not go the way they wanted to, obviously. It was borderline embarrassing against the Colorado Avalanche. Their first big game of the year, in my mind, was that first matchup against Colorado. 1-0 win. Hellebuck was outstanding. And you go down the list, they play the Capitals twice. They beat them, the best on best in the league. The Dallas Stars, 2 out of 3 they've won. I feel like every team has to go through losing before they are ready to win. And now I feel like this team, Gino, is not only kind of wondering how they're going to deal with pressure, but it feels to me like they're almost inviting it in. And when pressure is on, I've seen this team, not most of the time, but every time, rise to the occasion, and it brings out the best version of themselves. They played Florida earlier this year. In Florida, they got thumped. They come back home on a back-to-back, and they give it right back to them. They play the Capitals, like I mentioned. I think the difference this year is the fact that they've gone through pressure. There's a lot of pressure on them to get out of the first round, and I don't see them shying away or being intimidated from it. I see them inviting it and allowing it to make them better.
All right, so Connor Hellebuck's a virtual lock for the Vezina. Number one in goals against, save percentage, and wins. But what about the heart? Hasek, Theodore, Price were the last 3 goalies to do that. Does Connor Hellebuck deserve to join that group with what he's done this season?
There's no doubt. I mean, it's impossible to argue that he's not in that conversation and one of the most valuable players to his team. I'll start with this. The people that would argue that he isn't would argue this, and I'm with this team every day. And this team does not win because of Connor Hellebuck. They win with him. They've had the best power play for virtually all season long. They're the best defensive team now for the last 2 seasons straight. They've got depth, all 4 lines. They've got Josh Morrissey. You go down the list of why they win. Connor Hellebuck is the biggest piece of that. But in past years, and when Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina last time, I mean, it was because of him only that they won, in my opinion. He stole them games. He stole a couple of games this year, but he's just one big important piece of very many important pieces. But then you look at how calming he is, how he makes big saves at big moments of games. Man, this team breeds a ton of confidence and swagger because they know they have Connor Hellebuck behind him. He leads in all 4 major goaltender categories. That hasn't been done in quite some time. Sometimes he makes difficult saves look easy, Gino, because of his sense of anticipation. He sees where the play is going before it goes there, and therefore he makes it look easy. Without Connor Hellebuck, this team isn't nearly as good as they are. But I just want to make sure that people understand it's not because of him only that they're winning. But, man, this guy's the best goaltender on the planet by a mile, and he is so valuable to his team.
Okay, he's got a chance to make a little history. He's got a chance to tie Brodeur and Holtby for most wins in a season. But to do that, he'd have to start and win all 4 of the remaining games. Here's a question for you. If the Jets clinch the President's Trophy before his final game, should the Jets still start him for a shot at tying the record, or should they rest him for the playoffs?
Yeah, rest him. I mean, you're not looking for individual records at this stage of the game if you're the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, as good as that would be, they've had a plan. They've come into the season with a plan about how many games they want him to play in. Now, he's going to start 60 games now for 4 consecutive seasons. That's a lot of hockey. But their eye is on the bigger prize. That's a Stanley Cup. Connor Hellebuck has said it. He's won Vezinas. You know, they've won a lot here in Winnipeg, but they haven't won what's most important. That's a Stanley Cup. So Connor Hellebuck will be the first guy to stand up and say, I want to play every game, but what's best for me and what's best for this team is to make sure that I'm rested. We don't risk injury. Personal records are great, but not at the sacrifice of winning the biggest prize. So they need to make sure that they rest him. They need to make sure they keep Eric Comrie in the fold. And I think that it would be an obtuse way of thinking to make sure that he gets that record or has a chance to it at the sacrifice of this team's long-term goal.
So the Jets have already set a franchise record with 53 wins this season. Obviously, Hellebuck has been the single most important factor in that. But who deserves more credit than he's receiving right now for this record-breaking season?
Oh boy, you can go down the list of who has been impactful. And I love the question because it's really hard to put your finger on one player, one reason. And I think that's the truth for most championship caliber teams. I look at a guy like Alex Iafallo, where you go back to his days with the Los Angeles Kings, top line minutes with Anze Kopitar, Dustin Brown, but he's been a depth guy as well. On this team, Gino, he's been slotted in as a fourth line player. He plays power play. He plays penalty kill. He produces points. He's got 14 goals on the season. So Velarde gets hurt about 8 games ago. Iafallo comes up to the first line. And in some ways, he's made that line, well, better. I mean, listen, they're not going to be as good without Velarde, but Iafallo is a guy that grinds. He's got a skill set that doesn't really change. He doesn't get overwhelmed with any situation he's been in. He's fit on that top line, not just as a placeholder, but as a guy that looks like he belongs there. I asked him, what did you learn most from Anze Kopitar coming to this team? He said, patience. He never gets rattled, no matter how big of a moment. And Anze Kopitar, and I'm sorry, Iafallo told me the same thing. I get called to the first line, patience. I don't get rattled. He's been a huge factor in every scenario asked for with these Winnipeg Jets. He's been a big one.
Wow, great insights, my friend. Look, the entire hockey world's been talking about the Blues, 12-game winning streak, best record in the NHL since the Four Nations, and the Jets beat them 3-1. What do the Jets show you in that win in particular that makes you feel like they're now ready for the showdown with Dallas?
Yeah, that's another one of those big games where it's like if they lose that game, they come into this game potentially tied with Dallas, if Dallas would have won their last one. So that was a pressure moment. But more than that, no team was hotter than the St. Louis Blues. And the way the Blues structure their game is balance, but defense, and they lock things down. I saw from 12 forwards to a man in that game play a style of game that Scotty Arniel, the head coach, laid before them, which he's been doing all year long. As a matter of fact, you can go back 3 years, they've been doing that about let defense lead to our offense. That is why this Winnipeg Jets team is in the top 3, top 4 offensively and the best defensive team in the National Hockey League for 2 years running. In that game, I saw 18 men buy into one idea for every single shift of that game, and it was, we're not going to sacrifice defense for offense. We're going to smother, we're going to outweight them, we're going to stick to our game plan better and longer than the hottest team in the NHL right now. That's exactly what the Winnipeg Jets did. It was a 3-1 win with an empty netter. It was typical, prototypical playoff style of hockey. When you play up against the best teams, you have to know what your identity is, and you have to be willing as a group to stick to it no matter what is on the line and what is at stake. They did that in that game. They've done that in many games this year. This year, more than ever, over my 8 years here in Winnipeg, this team feels like it is matured and they are ready to win for those reasons.
All right, tonight, so much on the line in tonight's game. What's the atmosphere going to be like there in Dallas tonight?
Oh, man, the weather, it's sunny here, Gino. It's 30 degrees. And when we're done here, I'm going to go have a little pool time. It'll be great, but it's buzzing. And you know what? I would say that this Winnipeg Jets team is looking at this game just like any other one. And that's, I call the regular season a dress rehearsal. It is a dress rehearsal for the big show. And that's why you go through all these big moment games where there's anxiety. The Capitals, I go back to that. Everybody in the world's watching. Who's better, the Washington Capitals or the Winnipeg Jets? You go back and you look at those pressure games. This is a pressure game. If the Winnipeg Jets win this head-to-head matchup, it is all but over for the Central Division, the Western Conference, and man, that President's Trophy is looking pretty darn good too. Dallas is pushing. Pressure is a privilege, and I think the Winnipeg Jets are fired up for this. They haven't won on home ice here in a while. They've scored 9 goals against Jake Ottinger this year in this matchup. I think the Jets are coming into this one with a very quiet, humble swagger and confidence. I cannot wait.
Pal, I did the math. If the Jets win in regulation tonight, all they need is one more point, or for the Stars to give up one more point in their final 3 games, and Winnipeg clinches the Central. Kevin is going to be part of tonight's broadcast on TSN 3. Coverage begins at 6:30 Central. Enjoy, my friend. Thanks for this.
Thanks for having me, Gino.